The medical bay of the Constellation's Pride hummed with the sterile efficiency that characterized all Vryn vessels. Eleanor stood at the observation window, her breath fogging the reinforced glass as she watched the small form on the surgical table. The Cub, no more than 3 standard cycles old, shivered despite the thermal regulators maintaining optimal temperature in the operating theater. The sedative should have taken effect by now, Jasper muttered beside her, his datapad flickering with vital signs that painted a concerning picture. The young Vryn's heart rate remained elevated, stress hormones flooding its diminutive system. I don't understand. The dosage was calculated precisely for its mass and species. Eleanor's jaw tightened. She had seen this before, though never in a species as advanced as the Vryn. Fear, it seemed, transcended biological boundaries. The Cub had been injured during a reactor malfunction. A piece of shrapnel lodged dangerously close to its primary neural cluster. Without immediate surgery, it would die. With surgery, it might still die. The Vryn medical staff had exhausted their protocols, and in desperation they had called upon the humans who were still considered a curiosity in the Galactic Assembly. Humans whose empathy was often mistaken for weakness by the more logic-driven species. Humans who had only joined the interstellar community 3 decades prior. Permission to enter the surgical theater, Eleanor said, her voice cutting through the tense silence. Dr. Vexithera, the lead Vryn surgeon, turned her triangular head toward the observation window. Her vertical pupils contracted in what Eleanor had learned to recognize as confusion. Specialist Chen, the surgery is about to commence. Your presence would contaminate the sterile field. The Cub is terrified, Eleanor replied simply. It won't survive the procedure in this state. Elevated stress hormones will compromise healing and increase the risk of neural shock. We have accounted for all physiological variables, Vexithera insisted, her 4-fingered hands already positioned over the surgical instruments suspended by gravitic fields. Emotion is irrelevant to the success of... Emotion is everything, Eleanor interrupted, something she would never have dared with her own superior officers. But this wasn't about protocol. This was about a child, alien or not, dying alone and afraid. Let me try. Jasper placed a hand on her shoulder. Eleanor, if you're wrong, I'm not wrong. A long moment stretched between species, between worldviews, between 2 fundamentally different approaches to existence. Finally, Vexithera's membranous eyelids flickered. Assent, Eleanor hoped. 3 minutes, the Vryn surgeon declared. If the stress markers do not decrease, you will be removed. Eleanor didn't waste time acknowledging. She moved through the decontamination field, feeling the familiar tingle of molecular-level sterilization across her skin. The surgical theater felt colder inside, despite the readings that insisted otherwise. She approached the table where the Cub lay, its silver-gray fur matted with dried blood, its small chest rising and falling in rapid, panicked breaths, the Cub's eyes, large and liquid amber, fixed on her. Eleanor saw the fear there, primal and absolute. She had seen that same look in the eyes of her niece when the 5-year-old had needed emergency surgery after a playground accident. That same look that said, I don't understand what's happening and I'm so very afraid. Hey there, little one, Eleanor whispered, her voice barely audible over the medical equipment. She knew the Cub couldn't understand her words. The translation implants took weeks to calibrate for new users, but tone was universal. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took the Cub's small paw in her hand. The Cub flinched, but Eleanor held firm, not restraining but grounding. She began to stroke the soft fur with her thumb, a rhythmic motion that she had learned calmed most mammals. The Vryn weren't technically mammals, but they were close enough. Warm-blooded, live births. Parental bonding. You're very brave, she continued, maintaining eye contact with those terrified amber eyes. I know you're scared. I know this is strange and it hurts. But we're going to help you. I promise we're going to help you. Behind her, she heard Jasper's sharp intake of breath. She didn't need to turn to know he was watching the monitors, watching as something impossible happened. The Cub's heart rate began to slow. That's it, Eleanor murmured, still stroking the small paw. You're safe. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. The stress hormones on Jasper's readout began to normalize. The trembling that had racked the Cub's small frame gradually subsided. Eleanor started humming, an old lullaby her grandmother had sung to her, passed down through generations of humans comforting their young. The melody meant nothing to the Vryn cub, but the vibration, the soothing cadence, spoke to something deeper than language. The cub's eyelids began to droop. Remarkable, Vexithera breathed, and for the first time, Eleanor heard something other than clinical detachment in the surgeon's voice. The sedative is taking effect now. Full neural relaxation in 10 seconds. Eleanor continued holding the paw, continued humming until those amber eyes finally closed. Even then, she felt the small paw grip her finger with surprising strength, as if the cub understood on some instinctive level that this strange creature would keep it safe. "You may proceed," Vexithera announced to her team. Then more quietly to Eleanor, "Please, remain in contact. The readings are optimal now, but if the cub begins to rouse during the procedure..." Eleanor nodded, settling into a position where she could maintain contact without interfering with the surgical team. Jasper moved into the theater as well, positioning himself to monitor both the cub's vitals and Eleanor's own. 3 hours of delicate surgery stretched ahead. Throughout the procedure, Eleanor held the cub's paw. When monitors indicated rising stress levels, she increased the pressure slightly, hummed a little louder. Each time, the cub settled. When Vexithera finally sealed the last incision and declared the surgery successful, the Vryn surgeon stood motionless for a long moment. Her team had already begun post-operative procedures, but Vexithera remained focused on Eleanor. "We have been performing surgery for 3,000 of your years," the surgeon said quietly. "We have perfected techniques that your species has yet to imagine, but we have forgotten..." She paused, searching for words in a language that felt insufficient. "We have forgotten that fear can kill as surely as any wound." Eleanor smiled, still holding the sleeping cub's paw. "We haven't forgotten. We've never forgotten. It's what makes us human." Later, when the cub's parents arrived, their own fear poorly masked by Vryn stoicism, they found the human still there, still holding their child's paw. The translator implant struggled with the phrase the mother spoke, but the meaning was clear enough. "Thank you for remembering what we forgot." Jasper found Eleanor in the observation deck hours later, staring out at the stars. "You were right," he said simply. "I know," Eleanor replied, not with arrogance but with certainty. Sometimes the most advanced medicine is just holding someone's hand and telling them they're not alone. Out in the vast darkness of space, aboard ships of a dozen different species, word began to spread about the humans, not about their technology or their weapons or their strategic value, but about something far more dangerous to the established order, their capacity to care. And in the medical bay, a small Vryn cub slept peacefully, dreaming perhaps of the strange creature who had held its paw through the darkness, and stayed until the fear was gone.